can defenders to take advantage here, and it's just so fitting to be throwing it down when it matters the most here. These two teams fighting for a spot to go up against G2, who have already proved themselves this morning against M&M. Now, we saw these two teams playing yesterday, and I'm not sure how much of it you got to watch, Tim, but both of these series were exciting in their own individual ways.
100%, and we're hoping for some more excitement today. There's lots of interesting parallels to be drawn here. Of course, ITB winning the best of one, WYLDE winning the best of three. We sit in a best of three again. We've got ITB together in person, as you can see on their player cams. You know, you've got WYLDE online and at home. You've just got all these little factors that are playing in together that are always fascinating to see just exactly how they work out. We're going to have Monte and Ying taken out in our bans as the two attackers to go by the wayside. Azami will join as the first defender, and I like the spot that we've got into with bans at the minute. There's plenty of choice. Now, is it going to be Mirror? Is it going to be Kaid? Is it going to be Valkyrie? You know, you don't necessarily know where it's going. Soulless.
Oh,
there we go.
There you go.
I got in there in the nick of time.
All you've got to do, Tim, if you say them all, then you're going to be right.
Got to be right, Anna.
You know what I mean? You just got to keep listing them off. Fortunately,
I'll go through all 60 if I need to.
Just go for it. Me and Dem were having a good chat the other day, talking about when is the next ban slot coming? When are we getting 3 bans each or 4 bans each? Because the amount of operators that have come out since the bans was introduced is starting to get up there.
Well, yeah, you get. I mean, I think, you know, I don't think it's always healthy to have a situation whereby like it's just two guarantee. You know, you've just got guaranteed bans on each side because you can ban everybody who's a problem. I think it's good to have that choice for teams of like, do we want to deal with a Mirror? Do we want to deal with a Valkyrie? You know, what do we want to deal with? What are we going to get rid of here? I think that's an important part of the banning process. You don't want it to just become automatic. But as you say, I think we certainly, the more operators that come in that get useful, you know, the closer we edge towards being able to say, well, actually, you know, we're leaving 3 or 4 on the board that are problems here. So, like you say, whether that'll be a thing one day or not, we don't know. But I'm sure we will see as time goes on. So we're going to kick things off. It's round 1. It's down in the basement. ITB will start us off on the defence. To begin with, we've got a presence up on top floor. We've got the Mozzie up there, so that's just going to be trying to deny some of that opportunity to get drones in, make that be more of a face check clearance, make players get in there and actually be sure of what's going on, check those corners, and have to make those challengers blind potentially.
Well, going to be starting off on this roam clear. We've got Teb out on the rappel currently. Now, WYLDE have played in a number of different ways over the course of not only the qualifiers, but the regular stage as well. It seems as though they're going to be taking their time with this one, which is always a good way of going about it. Into the breach of set up a couple of mini games and a few problems that need to be solved here. And it's going to be down to WYLDE to flush those out. Ace is going to hit them with the Dokkaebi call and just jump on the camera, see if he can get any of those audio cues. And of course, Valkyrie cameras to be dealing with here as well. Azza can drop himself off that top floor. It's not a bad time to be dropping off. You've wasted around a minute, but there hasn't been too much utility that has gone out from these attackers. Speaking of, Kanto, he's going to spend a C4 quite early on there, just on a bit of a whim and a prayer on some vert, but it isn't successful.
Kendra just waiting for his moment. He decides that it is now and takes out the mirror window before moving round to square, potentially to complete his rotation back to site. I don't know exactly how far he's going to go. Needs to be careful, of course, with WYLDE above. Doesn't want to overstay his welcome below. Kanto is in tellers as well. Knows that it's been opened up above him. Just trying to use those vertical angles in reverse to see if he can find Teb. But no, it's going to be the man with the sledgehammer that gets the job done. And so often in Siege, it is the man with the man at the height advantage that will come out on top. Teb shutting down Kanto for the opener.
Big opening pick there. Kanto has spent his C4 already though, so maybe not going to be too worried about losing that. But Kendrew, you could see he was sort of debating whether he should be dropping the hatch, but just tried to hold on for a little bit too long there. Now that starts to become a little bit more of a problem, especially when you look at Azza's position. He's going to be hiding out inside of elevator, therefore leaving things pretty light on the site. There's no smoke in play here. There are 2 C4s, however. You better be hoping that Noah and Azza can get into position to use those, but as we've already commented, Azza is going to be stuck upstairs. Noah got a pretty important task here as Azza has managed to make his drop. Jonker keeping an eye on that garage. With only 3 defenders and 5 attackers, it starts to become very difficult here. C4 is going to get sent out, but it misses. Pipeball, he's still allowed to get that plant under the cover of Teb, and Teb is looking to further secure that with picking up a kill onto Jonker. Aces finds one onto Azza. Fantastic execute there from Wild.
There was some serious play in there from Wild. You called the Nitro go out, X, and if you notice, there was an EMP detonated at the same time, and I don't know how purposeful. I can only assume that is the reason that it was detonated, because the wall was gone, there was no utility to really clear. I don't know whether there's you know, an expectation of maybe other utility in there that could have been a problem, but you know, by accident or otherwise, that EMP was perfectly timed, because it disabled that nitro cell coming across. It is, you know, an electrical device at the end of the day. It is impacted by those EMPs, and it just stopped it detonating, and that could have been, you know, I'm not saying it would have necessarily been difference making in terms of the round outcome. ITB were, you know, on the serious back foot at that point, but you pick 2 kills up with the nitro and put the diffuser on the ground, and all of a sudden you don't know what's going to happen. So that was a big moment there in round 1.
I think you've got to give credit to Wild, haven't you? It's got to be purposeful at that point. We have seen EMPs used to stop C4s from going off, and especially if there's a smoke in play as well, it will stop the Toxic Babe canister from going off. So you've got to give it to them at that point.
Oh, it's brilliant. Absolutely. I think that, you know, whether it was specifically nitro, like you say, whether it was thinking nitro, smoke, you know, there's a bunch of stuff they could throw
just
as it.
They've got.
It was done for that reason, and it was absolutely perfectly timed and spot on, just like that opener from Noah manages to pick up Packbull, and that's the thermite gone. Hungry does get the trade. It's always a big risk to go out of those windows at the beginning of the round. You're likely going to lose your life, but Azza, he goes into double down and manages to find Hungry in a trade, and I think he's even going to make it back into the map.
Well, he certainly made his way into Dirt Tunnel, and if he gets into servers like he has, he's home and dry. No one is going to touch him here, and he can just sit, and with Kendrew flicking the cameras, it can give him a little bit of peace of mind here. Into the breach. More like out of the breach. They were flying themselves out of those windows there, really taking the fight to Wild.
Into the fire, it certainly is, as they, like you say, just really put a spark in the powder keg of this matchup. Teb is going to drop over the balcony onto Marble Stairs, just going to be looking to apply some pressure from there up in towards side. Gets himself an absolute freebie there onto Jonker. Wow. Look at that, taking shots underneath that mirror window through the soft wall. Picks up Aces as well. Sorry, no, it's Aces that picks up Kanto, Kendrew, and Azza though fighting back once again. ITB doing a great job of just keeping that toehold once they get it.
This is fierce. Both teams really throwing everything they can.
Tooth the nail already. This is round 2.
It's mental, isn't it? There was a point there where it wasn't looking too bad for Wild. They got a couple of quick kills, but the pace just knocked out of them again. No C4s left for Into the Breach here. A lot of time to play with. We can see that there are a couple of players for Wild on drones, so they may have a little bit of information. The diffuser isn't going to be a factor here. Teb, he's going to have to try and find these kills. Fortunately for him, he's got a pretty good gun to be going at this with, the AK-12. It's a very powerful weapon, especially in the right hands. Just seeing if he can make his approach a little bit easier here. There are a couple of Razor Blooms to worry about. He's already taken out one of those. Great patience from Wild. And great patience from Into the Breach. They are not looking to aggress onto this at all. Kendrew, he's going to hit the swing. Both players for Into the Breach there, picking that moment. Kenny's just hopping up behind the other side of the Chesterfield.
Spot on from ITB, I think, there. Just absolutely perfectly played. No rush whatsoever from their part. They know the clock's working in their favour. They're just going to wait for Teb to put himself in a position, as he has to, you know, that puts him at a disadvantage, and then pounce. And they got it absolutely perfectly right, did ITB there. They lock it out and go 1-1. And honestly, those first 2 rounds sum up probably exactly what I expected out of this game. You know, 2 teams that have got a little bit of a history through stage 2. they've had victories going both directions. You just sort of know that coming together, they're going to absolutely throw everything at this. You know, they're both teams that have got a point to prove. They've got, you know, a real reason to try and get themselves to that major, to say, you know, we've arrived. You know, both fairly new teams overall in the Siege landscape. And so getting there is just that big statement of, you know, that's our first foundational block securely locked in, and it gives us a point to really build from. And you can see both of them know exactly what's on the line here and how important it is. And oh, exciting stuff. 1-1, and I think we've got a real epic potentially on here.
There's that little bit of it's not quite a drama, but there's just that little bit of storyline between these two teams as well, right? You know, you've got that back and forth. You've obviously got what happened inside of the stage. It feels like there's a bit more at stake here than already something massive, which is a spot in the finals today. So you really know that both teams are going to be throwing everything at it. And I mean, Bank's a map that you can play aggressive on. You can throw yourself out of windows, and sometimes you've got to really commit to it to make it work. And I think that's one of the things that Into the Breach did fantastically there. They didn't just send one player out, they sent two. And that was, you know, it gave them that real nice edge, especially when you've got those players that are remaining on site, that can be just so relied upon to pull it off when they get left in that late round situation. Wild definitely got a little bit of thinking to do here ahead of round number 3. They are going to be faced with this roam game once again.
Kanto looks like he's going to drop away at that point. That should be top floor control largely in the hands of Wild then. It's just going to take them a little bit of time to be comfortable with that. Know that that's the case. The drones are still going around. Once they are confident that they can go in, I'm sure they will take that ground. They need to just be cautious of Nitros below as well. They need to be cautious of Jonker moving up square stairs. Manages to find a kill onto Jegs, and that is a big one to kick things off for ITB, where they've dropped away from that top floor and given up that map presence. They've still been able to find that opener and that entry, and now Teb's trying to work from above on the sledge. Nitro goes off. I think the ping just a little bit out of position there, not allowing it to come in quite exactly where it needed to. So Teb's destruction from above will continue. A minute 10 though, and Wild have got a lot of work to do yet.
They do have sledge. Teb can start to rip open some of that floor. There are a couple of breaching charges knocking around as well. But it's all well and good getting the floor open. You need to be flushing those defenders out of their positions where they're feeling safe and comfortable. When you've got the threat of at least one C4 below, it does give you something to think about. This stall out from Wild could prove deadly. They are likely going to set themselves up pretty soon, but you can make all the vert you want, but no one's really going to be able to sit there and use it because you've lost that man early on. You can't commit somebody to just sitting on that vert upstairs. And I mean, Tim, look at the information available here for Into the Breach.
Packball's going to drop down, try to get those Selma charges going, but Kendrew able to deny not one, but both. The bottom one, the third will detonate. That's just going to limit Kendrew's movement a little bit, but not too much. Aces manages to find him, and a double. How many times have we seen this from Aces when Wild have really needed it, but 7 seconds left to go. Packball needs to think about how that diffuser's going to go down. They need to extend the clock here. They can't. The play keeps going as 3 kills come in for ITB, and they close out round 3. There was just nothing Packball could do. We see the kill there at the end. They had to dash in and try to get that diffuser on the ground to keep the sand running through the hourglass on that round, but it just wasn't going to happen for them. ITB 2-1 up, and we'll head back down to the basement.
It all comes down to Azza there for me inside of that round. He played it beautifully. Played inside of Copy. Not an easy position to play. But when you have a man advantage and when you know that you've got that early edge over your opponent, Wild are struggling for covering every single angle there. It depends on what kind of take you want to do, but Copy is usually somewhere that you'd like to get somebody. You'd usually like an attacker on Copy window, even if they're going to rotate there at a later point in the round. There's a big vulnerability there, looking in across toward that cafeteria double door, and that's exactly where Azza picked up the all-important kill from. Pipeball was trying to get the plant down behind the bomb, and it just wasn't happening. Azza allowed that space, and again, it all comes back to that opening pick because you've only got so many bodies and so many guns to point in so many directions. So Wild there maybe missing out, maybe should have chosen to rotate somebody in through to that Copy window. But alas, Into the Breach, again doing a really good job of holding on. Kendry, 2-2. Azza, 4-1 so far. starting to heat up here.
We're going to have a lockers defense again from ITB. This time it looks like they're going to try to hold on to blue stairs. We've just seen Noah placing those ADSs at the top of the stairs there just to try and support whoever's going to play in there. It's almost a bit of a throwback, really. It's not quite. It's still, you know, a very valid technique, but it's something that we used to see almost the standard on this sort of defense would be your presence on blue stairs. But it's, you know, over time become a little bit fewer and far between. But I don't know who's going to play there, Kanto or Jonker. Would usually be the options on the Warden or the Smoke. Usually, given that the Smoke has the shotgun, I'd expect that to be the case for those tight angles when you're looking to the top of square, but I'm just not sure they've actually committed to it that much, and that's a little bit of a concern, really, because ITB have put a lot of utility there with those ADSs. Now, there is the man just on there. I think it might be the Jaeger of Noah, which would be unusual as an operator to try and hold that position.
So Noah played this yesterday, and we criticised it. We sort of said, look, you'd like a shotgun there, but there was a combination of things that went on. Now, Wild should have read into this quite well. They have the EMP grenades, so the ADSs aren't going to do anything. Noah pushes up aggressively. He does pick one, but he's immediately traded. Not a bad play in reality from Wild. They knew what they were going into there. Those impact grenades, those EMPs are devastating. They can destroy all of those ADSs, and you just throw one stun in if you're going to miss one. Easily enough done.
Yeah, and they've still got the thermite on side. They can still get that wall opened up. They've got diffuser in hand. They've got time with 1 minute 10 left on the side, on the clock. So pretty good passage of play, as you say, for Wild there. They needed to clear those blue steps out because we know that the player on there is going to play their life. You can open the hatch. You can do whatever else you want. They're not going to run away. But I would join your question from yesterday, really, as to is the Jaeger really the operator to do that with? Look at the situation he faced. He come around that corner, there was two of them there. That could have been one blast from the SAS shotgun and you might have had both of them. It's just a very different situation, and we've seen it work so many times before that you've got to ask that question. But the push here continues from Wild then, as we've got the IQ just working up above. Seems very concerned along with Aces that there's potentially someone up there with them, but at this point in time there is not. I don't believe ITB seem to all be back on site.
There's a bit of information available here. It seems as though Aces has hacked one of the bulletproofs, and I'm not sure if the defenders are aware, because we do have players on those bulletproofs. But Kendrick, he's on the flank. The plant's going down, but it's falling around his ears. Ted, you might get the plant down, but you got to feel like you were allowed to at that point. Fantastic retake there from Into the Breach. Kendrick moving his way up those main stairs, winning an all-important engagement, and then couple of kills coming in on the side. Still tons of info available there for Into the Breach. Yeah,
unfortunate for Wild to lose that fight on the flank, really, because, as I said, they had two players who kept looking across the map and they seemed very sort of cautious and concerned that there was somebody up there with them. And they was sort of specifically looking for that, and Kendrew's still able to win that fight. So, well played by Kendrew to get that job done. But a good round again from Into the Breach. 3-1 they go now. Solid defence of Bank so far. So much so that we draw the tactical timeout from Wild.
Probably not a bad time, really, is it? Round number 5. You've got a round or two left of your attack, and then you're going to be moving things onto your own defence. You still want to come away with a couple of rounds here. You can't be looking at this thinking, what are we going to be doing? There's obviously a bit of a desync, bit of a lack of communication or something that's been seen or flagged in some of the previous round that's just caused, right, okay, we just need to take a little bit of a step back here. We're maybe not playing our own siege as much as we're playing into what Into the Breach are setting up for us here. They are going to be attacking upstairs. Previously, we saw this round play out not necessarily unusually for a Bank upstairs, but we did see two defenders flying out of the windows, which we maybe don't see every single time, Tim. So Wild should be aware that they're coming up against something a bit different, because I don't think that's going to happen again.
No, Wild cannot, I'll put it in simple terms, Wild cannot lose a single person to somebody going out of the windows unless it's in the last 10 seconds of the round or something. It's at this point unacceptable to be losing anybody to that again. You've got to either bring your claymores along, or if you're not going to do that, you've got to be staying away from those windows or, you know, watching them for the jump out. You've got to be at least prepared for it one way or another. So I'm sure that'll be the case for Wild. I'm sure the diligence will be paid. As you said, CEO will be the floor, so we'll see mostly ITB up above. They've got 2 nitros in hand, one of Kendrew. I wouldn't expect to see the mirror underneath. Not going to be the case playing inside of stock at the minute. Azza is the one likely to find himself downstairs. I think that is the case at the minute, just around tellers. Going to try to play in and around and underneath those windows with those nitros. Just make it difficult for them to push in through that side.
Severe lack of nades for Wild. Where are the grenades, fellas? They are so good in Siege in general. Very good when attacking this site. You think you've got plenty of breaching charges, but really for what? You're not going to be looking at too much vert. You're going to be attacking that top floor. Obviously, operators are chosen more for their primary utility, but you've got to think about that secondary utility as well. And with the lack of nades, it's, you know,
you've just got to squeeze every drop. You've got to squeeze every drop. You really do. Stockwall going to be opened up. Teb's going to have that long angle to be able to hold. They're doing good work here so far, are Wild. Opening up, they managed to open up Cantor Wall as well, which gives the long angle. You just, you know, any of the defenders need to be careful now moving around vending machine or into that corridor at all, to be honest, especially with the stock wall open as well. So reaching the halfway mark, I think it's so far so good for Wild. They've dealt with a lot of issues. Packball, you see, this is what I said, and I like to see that. They could not be losing players on those windows, and the alternative to jumping out of them is to try and get them from ATM. Azza has got himself stuck. He can't get away from this. Aces is going to close him down. Great play from Wild.
Quite rightly so. Wild doing a good job at punishing that roam there. Azza sent onto the cameras, should have a couple of his own to at least watch and call out for. Job isn't done though. Wild are still very timid in this approach. Kanto is lining up the impact trick there. He's got that ready and raring to go if it is going to be required. Teb is going to send out the Selma. Kanto doesn't have the time or space to get that impact out there. Instead, he's just going to lose his life core. Looking, Teb caught in a goo mine for the time being, but everything's coming up Wild here. Kendrew, he moves into Janitor, trying to keep control of that space. Does get caught looking the wrong way, but picks up one, immediately traded by Packbull. Noah, you got a long way to go here, especially with the Logic Bomb phone call coming in. The smoke now goes out. That's going to cover the plans. You better believe there's players on that window ready to hold it in a post. He might stop. Oh no, not even going to stop the plan. Just gets caught running around inside of the smoke. Packbull, he gets the plan down and picks up the final kill.
I think Noah was just kind of hoping to run into the planter inside of the smoke there and maybe take a quick melee kill. But I like that from Wild. Good attack. A lot of the work was done by their hard breachers. You know, we saw there at the end of the round, every time we flicked onto another point of view, there was a hole in a reinforced wall. And that just made it so difficult for ITB. Everywhere they moved, every rotation was cut off. There was no space for them to breathe whatsoever. So great round from Wild. Really well done. And that seems to be the pattern for this game so far is, you know, one team has a great round, the other one comes back with one of their own. They always seem to find an answer one way or another, and that's a tantalising prospect for us. So we head into our final defensive round now. It's going to be cafeteria and open area. ITB bringing along the mirror this time and using it on that wall rather than reinforcing the whole thing out of cafeteria towards square. They've actually played the mirror quite aggressively. That's going to allow them to challenge around that soft wall, so that's going to be an area to watch out for.
Got to keep a keen eye on the opening pick here as well. Wild did lose it out last time they attacked this site, and it did come to cost them at the end. They're playing a little bit more of a plant-focused game of Siege here, and that's often what we find on Bank. There are so many options to get that plant down and hold it in a post that attackers will use that as a bit of a win condition. Good to see that Jegs is transitioned onto the IQ. There's been a lot of Echo play. There's been a heck of a lot of Valkyrie play from Into the Breach, namely Kanto or Azza. This time it's going to be Kanto. So good to see Jegs bringing that IQ out just to try and deny a little bit of that info.
as you say, just still locked into that gadget, pinging him out for his teammates to let them know, you're not going to get it from there, Jags. If you want that camp, you're going to have to go in and get it. And for the time being, they're not too keen on that. Of course, the nitro underneath could signal the entrance, and it could be all over before you get anywhere near a camera. So they just need to be cautious of that. Teb joining Hungry up on the roof. Wild, I think, just need to take stock here and think, and I don't mean the room, I mean in general, of how the round is progressing. You know, just think about exactly how they're going to get into this top floor, because right now Noah is holding position inside of Janitor, and ITB sort of look and feel reasonably comfortable.
Into Breach have really set themselves up. They're very much like, look, if you want this top floor, you're going to have to take it. And Wild, whilst they don't look confused, they are very spread out at the moment. Azza has got a great chance of a C4 from below as well, through the hatch. Packbull, he's going to be playing on side of blue. This is usually an area occupied by a defender at a later point in the round, but he's getting ready now to open up that main quad wall. We can see the impact going in from above, but there's a chance that Kendrew gets away with it. A beautiful play there from Kendrew, just keeping it in the pocket, and Teb's been downed. This isn't going too well, Tim.
No, smart play there from Kendrew, really showing his experience and his speed of thought there to get that done. They know that Teb's down, they're sending nitros out to try and get him, but they can't, so there might be an opportunity for Wild to get him, but time is going to be the bigger factor. 50 seconds left to go, and most players over the other side of the map is going to prevent them from doing so. But I picked up on this mirror at the beginning of the round. Let's see how important it can be now. Kendrew, full white flash as Jonker manages to pick up aces. We're leaving us. No Teb has been collected, so that is a big play for Wild. 30 seconds left to go, and it's 5 versus 4.
Jonker's just caught out there looking inside of Archives and Tellers, seeing if he can get anyone on the flank. Jegs making that rotation upstairs, trying to use a bit of that vert. But look at the time, there's nothing left. There's only 20 seconds and the hatch is closed. Packbull, he was looking for a drop, but he can't make that happen. He has the diffuser. He is the only player right now that can try and extend this clock for Wild. A desperate drop here into Desk is going to be met by Noah. Packbull will find one first, but a shotgun at close range is a devastating prospect. It all comes down to Packbull now with only 2 seconds left to go, and players through into the breach, dug in, not giving themselves away. Another successful defense downstairs in open area.
No choice for Packbull there. Sorry, at the end, just to be going in and trying to find those final kills. There was no real option to do anything else. As you say, into the breach, fantastic defense there. I like that it was, you know, it was plan B, it was the second option. They'd already shown us one defense on that site. They came out and did something significantly different, really, with the mirror and everything else in place, and just some great plays throughout the round to get it locked down. So 4-2 and a great start for ITB. We would expect it on their map pick, of course. They did get the first choice and took Bank, so the second map will be Wild's pick of Border. We'll see you know, how that progresses as we go, but for the time being, ITB with a good advantage here. But that said, I do like Wild on the attack. Throughout the stage, they've shown a good ability to get the diffuser down and, you know, to really make it difficult for the defenders. But I think we're going to see a couple of solid rounds from on defense now. So ITB, they're going to have to be switched on if they want to be taking more.
I think you look at what's available today, and yes, we have an Azami ban, and yes, we have a Solace ban, but you've got a Mirror available, and you've got a Valkyrie available. You've got so much option for information here. Mirror's almost going to be a perma-pick, because you can use that absolutely everywhere. You can use it to assist a roam, you can use it to assist the site. There are so many different options, I think, that are available here for the defenders, that it is going to be quite difficult for attackers to be picking up rounds here today. But we'll see if that rings true with Into the Breach's attempt here. They're going to be attacking onto that open area. It's a site they defended very successfully. Let's see if Wild are able to do the same. I was getting a little bit concerned there because there was a bit of a stack up. It wasn't quite everybody inside of Electrical waiting to burst through the castle barricade, but there was a little bit of potential for that. But you've got to try and clear this top floor. There are going to be roamers up there, there's going to be utility up there, and you need to get that vertical action working.
Noah just going to be opening those windows in towards CEO. All going to be about map control. Try and get, as you say, those verticals going. And we're going to have Azza moving in as well. So good quick progress from ITB, really. That's, you know, window control and Azza moving up to the top floor all within the first minute. I don't know if he knows that there's somebody off to his left here. I don't know. I think he does. As in, it's about to go in through that window. It could be good night for Aces. It is indeed cooked to perfection.
Great open there from Azza, who's been so good on this entry, but Teb with the bounce back. He takes Kendrew out there. A little bit of a chance, but the trade comes in. Kanto, he's going to be there ready and waiting. These trades are fierce from Into the Breach right now. Packbull, he's going to rotate his yokai drone back inside of sight. See if he can gain a little bit of information there briefly. He doesn't want to leave it up there for too long. It would be vulnerable, but he can at least just call out for the rest of his team. Wild, they are at a man disadvantage right now. And there's still a little bit of time for Into the Breach to squeeze here.
Yeah, I think Packbull and Jegs just becoming the anchor in this situation there for a wild ship that is sort of swaying in the breeze at the minute. And that breeze is picking up as ITB look to turn things into a storm as the verticals get going. Jegs has been forced all the way back down to the basement as well. So Packbull is in sight with Hungry at the minute. And how this flank is potentially dealt with in the late round, how Jegs is dealt with, could be an important factor, but it looks to me like the attack is mounting much more towards that open side than it is the triple wall.
Wild have still got some really good tools to try and deny this. They don't have a C4, but they do have the yokai drones. And if there's a little bit of information still available, I'm sure that we'll see the teammates jumping on it. And at the moment, we do have Teb on one of those yokais. There is a nade going to get sent out there, and Yonka just going to have to wait before he pushes through. But he's got a horrible angle to challenge onto. Hungry, look at him go. Picks up 2 before being traded. That could be huge. Kanto, he's downed as well. Jegs is going to collect the final kill. Welcome to the scoreboard, Jegs. You've had a quiet game so far, but he's going to pick one up when it matters the most. Wild picking up their first round on defense.
And what a round it was. Absolutely no panic to be found for Wild. 3 versus 4 for a lot of that round. Jegs moving around in the basement, left only 2 on site, but what a 2 it was. Hungry absolutely decimating them as they tried to come in through double door. ITB, I think, knew that there was likely somebody in or around that position, and they just didn't really have an answer. They sort of dropped in from the hatch, tried to find something from underneath the partition, but just couldn't get it done. And Hungry was absolutely phenomenal, rock solid for Wild there, so they get themselves their first defensive round. That leaves us 3-4 on the scoreboard, and that starts to answer those questions that I had about, you know, exactly how are ITB going to look on the attack. It's been a good first half from them, but it looks like it could be a difficulty for them if they come up against those positions whereby we don't have an answer to this. We can't move these players. You know, they had Packbull playing inside of the quad wall. We can't really get to him from this position. We can't really get the breach off onto the castle barricade because we've got Jegs underneath. Like, you know, how do we go about that?
Yeah, I think that was the difficulty there from Into the Breach. They just didn't have an answer. And they had some tools left at their disposal, but they did spend a long time on that roam clear. And Wild did the right thing in just sitting tight. We'll see how it develops. They're going to be going downstairs now. Now, it was Jegs' birthday yesterday. So I don't know if the quiet start today is maybe a sign of something that potentially happened last night.
Surely not. I'm not too sure
what the celebrations look like, but he's having a slightly slower start of things today. Might be finding the game a little bit loud, maybe a little bit overstimulating with all of the fast-moving action. But hopefully he gets his act together, because you can't afford to have anybody slacking on a day like this, and we just know what Jegs is capable of.
No, we know what's at stake as well. Of course, this being the semi-final of our last chance qualifiers for the Atlanta Major here in EU. So, you know, the winner of this goes on to play G2 in the grand final. A very good G2 at that, from what we saw earlier against M&M. So, yeah, definitely need to be on your game today. There's a lot at stake. And as I say, for 2 new teams here, or relatively new teams, you know, having that opportunity to get through to that major, to that big stage, it's what it's all about. It's why you put these teams together. So yeah, it's definitely a big proving ground for both of them. Jonker then going to be established inside of Tellers. This is attack down onto basement, so they're going to be looking to get hatches to begin with, and then the next question will likely be, how do we deal with servers? How do we get control down there?
No real presence on blue. That's going to be given up pretty much for free. Instead, it was a hold of open area. The couple of hatches open, ready to drop off, and it's done a job at wasting a decent amount of time. There is a limited hard breach available here, and that isn't necessarily going to become a problem, but we will be able to open hatches, and Jonker's going to start to tick those jobs off his to-do list. Aces, though, finds one onto Kendrew. got to ask a question of why is Kendrew pushing down those main stairs at that point? His team is still very much just setting up and preparing. If you're watching the flank, yeah, sure, fair enough, but maybe overcommitted a little bit.
Possibly just a little bit, looking at a potential vault drop here as it is waiting. I think smoke canister is likely to go out. He's going to drop inside of that, but the toxic babe is enough of a distraction for Noah to be taken down. Asa does manage to find one onto Hungry though, but the kills are coming in for Wild. Teb and Ace has managed to take down 2 and continue fighting. That's going to be the round. And once again, as I said, you know, in the previous round, Ollie, there, ITB coming up against problems, and I think just struggling to think on their feet and get those answers. It's like you come in with a plan, but everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. The question is, what do you do then? And ITB, just for me, not really adapting quickly enough in those two. Wild managing to level things up 4-4.
Well, it's that time in the game where we watch Kangaroo Kenny bend his knees and wave his hands. He's now going to have a chat with the team and just see if they can stabilize somewhat. We could sit here and talk about that previous attack and the attack before that and point out, you know, all of the holes and all of the flaws in it. I think that Into the Breach, they do just need to do a little bit more on these attacks. It looks like they're going for such minimalist takes, and that isn't going to work, especially when you're going up against a Wild that is so well informed. They're bringing the yokai, they're bringing that echo drone that they're going to be able to use, and you could see just how quickly that yokai drone was moved over into Vault. Those weren't kills coming off the back of a call out or any, they were coming off the back of a red ping. We knew that there was a player inside of that gold vault, and Wild knew exactly just how to deal with it. Information has been key, and it will always be key inside a siege and Into the Breach. Not only are they lacking that information, but it also looks like they're trying to get away with doing the bare minimum on these attacks. I want to see them do a little bit more. We need some dynamic pushes. Where was the push through garage last time? Where was the presence inside a server? It just wasn't existing.
Let's head into round 9 then, as Wild have leveled things up, and it's a dangerous prospect for ITB. I've already spoken about the map choices here. This is their map choice, and they're going to be heading next time into Border, which is Wild's pick. And if Wild can be going into that confident, having taken map 1, you could be staring down the barrel of another short day. The last time these two teams played in a best of 3, it was, of course, in the seeding match, and Wild won 2-0. So, you know, ITB certainly don't want to be getting into that position. I'm sure that history will ring loudly in their minds should they lose this first map before they go into Border. And Wild at the minute are just looking like a little bit of a cut above on defence. So ITB, as I say, for me, it's that mid-round adaptation. It's those later round calls of, you know, this isn't working. We haven't cleared this area. This player is a problem. And what do we do about it? That just doesn't seem to be sort of hitting the sweet spot for ITB at the minute.
Couple rounds lost in a row. Time for them to reply. Jegs is going to open up his account this round with a kill onto Kanto. With it, 2 of the 4 grenades that were brought inside of the round. Azza does have some decent drone information. Could maybe get himself a nade kill here into front desk. He's certainly going to be going for it, but look at all the utility. A heavy stack up here. We've got ADSs, we've got YMI magnets. Jegs should be fairly safe. Maybe that's being fed back to Azza because he does seem a little bit hesitant at the moment, but instead he's just going to call out for Kendrew. If a nade isn't going to work, then a headshot certainly will. Good bit of info exchange there.
Yep, great view that we got of that, as well as Kendrew managing to level things up 4-4. I've absolutely no idea how this match is going to go from here. It is so level in all terms, realistically. Azza squeaks ITB ahead by 1 kill, essentially, at this point. Everything else is level, and they can start working up from the gold spiral staircase. Jonka just looking to pressure Marble at the same time, potentially, as well, with the Hibana. Azza sending the nade up towards that hole on Kanto that has been made. Knows that there's a player in and around there. The hole not big enough, really, to dissuade Packbull from trying to hold on to it, but the bullets, they'll dissuade him pretty well. Teb picks Noah up along the way, and it's 3 versus 2, 3 versus 1 for ITB as Kendrew continues to march on. It's all up to Teb. 1 versus 3 becomes 1 versus 2. Can he find the kill that will level things up and bring it to 1 versus 1? That is the question. 40 seconds to make this clutch happen.
He's got a bit of information here. He knows exactly where Azza is. Azza does have the diffuser, and look at Teb's positioning. He's being forced out of any sort of challenge here. Not sure if he knows he's being held from main stairs. I would argue he does, given his crosshair placement right now. He's going to put some good shots in. Both players missing. Jonker taken to 1 HP, but the plant going down and being confirmed. Jonker can now look to try and work this around and maybe get himself into a slightly better position. But Azza says enough is enough. Closes out the round. Big old round from Azza as well.
Yeah, ITB, you know, delivering more of what I've asked for, really. Get yourself into that end round, get yourself the opportunity to execute, solve those problems as you go. Much better from them. They get themselves 5-4 now, and that might just give them the little bit of confidence that they need. You've got 2 rounds to go. You sort of start feeling like that end is in sight, and maybe they can get this one locked down to keep a hold of their map. Choice here on Bank, but a good round, as you say. Noah, I think a little bit, sorry, Teb, a little bit unfortunate at the end there. Just had that opportunity, got shots onto Jonker, who was down to 1 health, and I think if he dies on the Hibana at the top of Marble Stairs, maybe you've got a slightly different prospect on your hand in the 1v1. But Teb, just unfortunate not to connect any shots closer to the head, essentially. The last couple sort of going into the legs and not really doing the business.
One more bullet.
That's all
it would have needed. You know, he's got a little bit of a dumpy fire rate on the weapon he's using on the Thorn. It's not exactly the fastest fire rate, but it is a hard hitting weapon. It hits like a truck. But you've got to give the benefit of the doubt to Azza. 12-4 right now. He's really popping off. If there's any game that you want him to really stand up, it's going to be here and now. We know him to be an extremely capable player. It's good to see him really standing up and being counted right now on Bank. Again, not a lot separating these two. We're going into open area again. This was where Into the Breach came up against quite a few problems. In the previous round, when there's nothing to breach and they're just going to go for a main lobby execute, everything works quite well because they don't need to breach. They don't need to worry about a big utility exchange. But here and now, there's quite an important job to be done. Now, they haven't really got anything to breach with. So that shows an intent of, well, we'll maybe use the can opener, but we're more likely going to try and get something working off the back of this Ossa shield.
Once again then, Noah up on the book. Such a common position for the book in general, to get up on these windows before trying to push in. It's the shortest distance to trying to start work those verticals. It is going to be open area that they're attacking onto. Aces is taking a ton of damage there, and this could just signal ITB really starting to get themselves rolling with some momentum. If they're a rock that's hit the downhill, then Wild could be in trouble here because they're rolling towards them at speed. As we say, IS is taking a lot of damage. They're having to drop away, yield that top floor control over to ITB. Halfway through the round, they are moving pretty well here for a push onto open area.
Kanto just jumping into the scanner, seeing if there's anything that he can glean here, any information that can be gathered. There is, of course, the small matter of the Black Eye cameras and the Yokai drones for him to find, so should be seeing a good bit of value out of that IQ scanner inside of this round. Nobody has accounted for the player hiding out behind a teller's desk. We got Teb. He's tucked in here, and he might be about to see some success. Oblivious is the word, Azza, that you are looking for. He had no idea that Teb was hiding out there, and it's going to force a knee-jerk reaction here. The dope could be called from Jonker, and he's going to try and clean up this kill.
Yeah, I think that's the case for ITB at the minute. Every time they get a foothold, every time they start pushing forward and you think, right, you know, they've hit the slope now, they're on the downhill, somehow Wild just seem to, you know, find a position where they're able to make life difficult for them. Hungry once again coming in and picking up an importantly timed kill, managing to take down Kanto. 3 versus 2 though, as ITB dig deep and manage to find a way, and that is it. Noah comes in with a big double, mops it up, and that is going to put them on match point. It's 6-4 now to Into the Breach.
That was beautiful from Into the Breach. Kendry with the drop. We spoke about it at the start of the round. We said, you got to watch the Ossa. The Ossa is the thing to watch here. That's the ball underneath the cup. You need to keep a close eye on that because wherever that goes is where the plant's going down. Kendry was able to get himself in, deploy the Ossa shield, start to bait that plant out, removed a little bit of utility. I think he got one of the Yokai drones as well. And the all-important point there, copy window. You've got to have control of that copy window when you're attacking into open area. Such a crucial zone, and especially if you allow somebody like a Book to play there and the wall's left soft, you can open up as many lines of sight as you like. Into the breach, doing a cracking job there. That timeout, it's worked wonders for him, Tim.
Yeah, it really has. Kangaroo Kenny working his magic, no doubt. Just sort of steadying the ship and pointing out some of those fundamentals that need to improve, and that's exactly what we've seen. They've certainly had more of the answers on the attack here, not getting to that mid-round point and just sort of stalling out. So well played from them. They've got one more round to get this first map locked up, done and dusted. And against this Wild side, from what we've seen so far, I would suggest into the breach that you get that done now, because you know, I don't think Wild are going to give them much breathing space. They've been quiet for the last couple of rounds. Take advantage while it lasts.
We've seen some really good active attacking rounds in the last couple for Into the Breach. I'd like to see the same here again. I want that full execute. If you're going to try and drop the back hatch, great. You need to add on to that a little bit of pressure from elevators. You need to add on to that a bit of pressure from main and or a bit of pressure from garage. It can't be as simple as just sending two people down that back hatch. Now, I'm saying that that's the plan. I'm imagining it's going to be something along those lines, given the lineup that they've brought. Hatches are already going to be open, so that isn't too much of a concern hard breach wise. They've got can openers, they've got the Hibana, so they're going to be able to get anything they want open hatch wise. It all just now depends on where they want to try and make that execute happen. Is it going to be a case of dropping the back hatch, or are they going to turn their attention to servers? They haven't done that yet, but maybe now is the time.
Azza just keeping a focus on the bottom of blue stairs. I don't think they're confident as to the positions of Wild at the minute and whether there's anybody there that will be challenging them. Azza sends a drone down, so we'll find that out. Jex has been able to keep himself out of danger at the minute, out in garage, just watching for that rear-sided push to come through, but it's not looking like a play that ITB are going to be utilising for the time being. It's all stacking up towards a server's push.
You can see the Vulcan canister just starting to dissipate now, as it is going to be the servers this time. Azza is going to be working that vert above on the hatch. You start to look at what we've got in terms of denial, and it's no C4s. There are a couple of smoke grenades, but there is the Echo. Packbull holding that yokai drone upstairs. He does have another one switched over, but neither are in a good position to start to deny this plant. He's going to have to transition at least one of them over here as the plant does start to go down. Jonker, he's going to be pushed off that by the Toxic Babe canister. Now is the time for Packbull to rotate that utility across. Jonker going to go for a reattempt here, but they're struggling a little bit from the hatch. Can get the read, but can't really get the angle. Does manage to deny. All important denial there. Toxic Babe canisters have now been spent, and Packbull can continue to harass Jonker as he tries to get it down, but that is only going to work for so long. They're going to need to commit to this, and commit they do. Packbull, he takes it to him, bold and brave, picks up one through the hatch as well. The diffuser in the hands of Kendrew now, as Noah's going to be the next player to fall. Kendrew trying to push on him. Packbull eventually will fall, but it's all down to Kendrew. He recovered the diffuser, but that's all about he did. Aces, he's going to collect that final kill along with the one previous. Wow, they're going to hold on here.
If you recall, at the beginning of that round, I said, you know, now is the time for Into the Breach. Wild have had a slow couple of rounds, and you've got to take advantage of that whilst it lasts. And guess what? Your time ran out. Wild just woke up after those two quiet rounds. They came in and dominated that really. Nice play from Packbull, just denying that plant twice. But then the way that he moved in aggressively with that shotgun and a brilliant kill onto the hatch, that for me probably wins the round at that point. You know, because that is sort of feeling like ITB's sort of ace in the hole. That's their card that they think, right, yeah, that's going to win us the round. We get on the hatch, we shut down, and we get that, you know, diffuser picked up and planted, but completely closed out by Packbull. Really well played from Wild. You know, what a prospect we've got if this goes to overtime.
You do have a habit of attracting them.
I really do, don't I?
I remember when we started casting.
Oh,
It was a problem back then.
And continues to be. I mean, I've had an overtime with demo today. That second map went to overtime, and I honestly think there's a real possibility of one here as well.
It is, it's like a dark shadow that follows you around, but it makes for good siege.
It makes plenty of excitement.
Look at what we're playing for. You know, we're playing for a spot against G2 in the grand finals. I want to see every available round all the time, because that's what you really need to show. You need to show that you deserve it. We don't want to come in here and see 7-1s and 7-0s, as exciting as they can be to watch and to see a team doing well. It's much better to watch a nice scrappy game of Siege where you've got, you know, players at every level of the scoreboard right now, all just fighting tooth and nail to get the job done.
So it just shows what it means. You know, it just shows how important it is to these players. Noah's going to work underneath, make sure that they don't have the Roma down there that we quite often see from the defenders. So he will make his way back up blue steps now. How about that from Azza? Manages to pick up Hungry, who's caught sleeping, to be honest, just not aware of the angle that was coming through to him. How about that for quick progress as well? The ace is opening up that quad wall. I tell you what, if Wild woke up last round into the breach, they've certainly retaliated. They've responded. They've said, right, that's enough now. We need to get this locked out. As I said, you can't allow Wild that wiggle room. You can't allow them that space to get back into things. And I think they've recognised that here at ITB, and they're starting to close things down.
Jonker going to go for a rappel down the main skylight. Ace is in a cracking position, but he gets naded out. He is known up here. And Azza isn't done just yet. Still has one nade left. If you look at the players from Wild and how spread out they are, it's not looking too good at all. We've got both Aces and Teb on this top floor. Aces trying to make a miracle happen here. Jegs, he's going to get tagged up as well. Not a lot of hit points to speak of for the remaining defenders on the side of Wild, and there's a lot of pain yet to come in their direction. No nades left on Azza, but Jegs is going to be fighting inside of the heart of the site. Teb's trying to hold on to that vertical angle that looks onto the copy window, and with Aces still above, Into the Breach are stalling out a little bit here.
Certainly are, and that's the problem that I've identified a couple of times. But then Azza, he kickstarts the attack with a kill onto Jegs. Teb's managed to find one inside a sight. He's absolutely back to the wall fighting here. He's got one on the window pressuring him. He can move absolutely nowhere. Diffuser goes down. ITB with the hold that they needed. Quad kill comes in for Aces. Sorry, for Azza, as he manages to find his fourth in the round. Teb, it's all up to you. You got to move. You got to do something. Beautiful shot, headshot onto Kanto right through there. But damage is taken, and that's all ITB need to do here to lock out. Bank the diffusers down. They can just keep chipping away at Teb here. He's going to have to create some sort of rotate. Out goes the Nitro. Doesn't get the arm on it that he needs. Doesn't find the man behind the counter. It's Kendrew to close it out, and that is going to be map 1. Bank locked down by Into the Breach.
Aces not managing to pull it off there, and Azza almost coming away with his second ace of the weekend. Kenny's going to be pleased with that one.
I think so.
I was going to say, it's a very underrated impact, the impact a coach can have in a good timeout. We saw it a lot when we got the listenings at the live events. And I would have loved to hear that listening that Kenny gave, because it really seemed to just flick a switch there for Into the Breach.
Yeah, as you say, I think, you know, they recognise where the issues were. We stopped seeing that stalling out. You know, they took the opportunity.